I'd like to have that conversation about needs of Muslims in federal prisons, for sure.
Absolutely. And what are those needs? What are the a certain pertinent need that you could walk us through? Sure, it all has some common wraps.
Yeah, so I want to say that, first of all, like, the needs should be just like someone who's living in a house.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Muslimi Meets. Today we are here with Abdur Rashid Taylor, an amazing chaplain. He has so much to share with us, and I can't wait to hear all about it. So stay tuned and welcome back.
Wa alaikum salam tullah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, I'm really pleased to be here, especially on a special day like today, for sure. Yeah.
Good to have you here. Thank you for that introduction, Sister Ola. I'm with Cyril and Ashir Person Khan, talking with Imam Abdur Rashid Taylor. You know, all too often, when you think of the prison system, it's a very foreign concept, system that most of us don't know. It's othered, and it's a system that, unfortunately, there's a lot of members of our community that are in this system for many reasons, and we don't need to get into that. But I thought it was important to speak with you, Imam Abdur Rashid Taylor, to think us through this system, and also besides that, why we should, think about this system and why it's important that we need to have this conversation about the prison system and also some of the work that you're doing.
Yes. Well, thanks very much for inviting me. I want to say that for sure, the situation with Muslims in prisons have changed dramatically. I was just telling Adil that, like, this year marks 30 years since I've been involved with the prison justice system. I volunteered at the Dawn Jail in the fall of 1992. And since then, things have changed dramatically with the number of prisoners that are Muslims, who is in the prison, convert, Muslim family, their needs, etc. That has changed so much over the 30 years that it's really, like you said, it's something that our community has forgotten, and that's what I'm hoping to get to today in our conversation about what needs might be happening or what might the reality be for Muslims in prison.
Absolutely. And walk us through that system, Abdur Rashid. Like, the other day I was reading something that's in provincial prisons and Ontario prisons have doubled, right? Walk us through it. What is this system, and what are some of the issues, but also the needs of the community? I mean, I heard something a couple of years ago. There was issues with Ramadan, like people not being able to break their fast properly. Maybe it's important for us as a community to hear that.
I hear that, for sure it is. So I work in the Federal Correctional Center. So the Federal Correctional Center is a place that Muslims, Christians, Jews, and other, who are sentenced for more than 2 years, where they live out their sentence. The provincial prison is a place where people might be held for trial, who might be sentenced to 6 months or something like that, and they might spend their time there. So the needs of someone in a provincial prison is quite different to someone in a federal system. In the federal system, it's really their home, right? So people are living there for 2 years, and so there's life in prison, which could be up to 25 years in Canada. So the needs of people in the federal system are quite different to the ones who are in the provincial system. And I'm more, I'd like to have that conversation about needs of Muslims in federal prisons, for sure.
Absolutely. And what are those needs? What are the a certain pertinent need that you could walk us through? Sure, it all has some common wraps.
Yeah, so I want to say that, first of all, like, the needs should be just like someone who's living in a house, right? People need food, they have jobs within the system, they need education, they need family connection, they eventually get out of prison. So when they get out of prison, they need help within the community, they need a home, and they need to move or to connect with others that would help them to become law-abiding citizens. Right? So that's the reality of the deal. While people in prison, and you mentioned Ramadan, and I'd like to focus on that a little bit, right? Like, Muslims in prison, they fast, they celebrate Eid, they pray 5 times a day, just like anyone else in their home would do. But the situation and I'd like to raise this year in particular, is the need for Ramadan. Many times, many of Canada's prisons are older. Many of Canada's prisons are older, and like at home, you're going to get up for suhoor. What do you do, right? I go get some, I turn my stove on, I press my microwave, I heat up my food. So the situation for some Muslim prisoners is that like they might not have hot water readily available for them every morning in Ramadan. So a chaplain at Walworth Institution, just 2.5 hours outside of Toronto, came up with this novel idea where he's providing thermoses for Muslims to have hot water overnight so that they can make oatmeal in the morning rather than cold oatmeal. Imagine fasting with cold oatmeal for suhoor, right? So that's one of the projects that we're looking to really get support behind this year, especially, thermoses for Muslims in federal jail, But that's one of the things. I mean, like, I also want to say that there's really been a lack of Muslim participation in volunteering in federal prisons. A Muslim who's a volunteer may not necessarily be someone going to see a prisoner, right? A Muslim that volunteers might be someone to help with literacy. It might be someone to help with helping families when on the outside. And your work particularly with families. Many families of Muslims who are incarcerated are suffering alone, and there are very few resources that would help them make it through the incarceration of their loved ones. So that's another gap within our system that really our community needs to really come up to speed and connect with.
I feel like there's a lot of out of mind, out of sight. It's like if we don't see them, they don't exist, right? But it's interesting because if you look at it, this is when they need somebody the most. This is when they're in literal confinement, right?
Yes.
And when you're alone, your mental health is at stake. You don't have the support of other human beings.
Yeah.
Very much internal. And a lot of people are not used to even being alone.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What have you seen that surprised you about the people that are in confinement? Maybe something that you have a lens for that we are not privy to that information.
One of the things, particularly with Muslims in prisons, I have seen some extremely creative people.
Just it.
Right? An artist that somehow gets caught up with crime or whatever, makes a mistake or does a crime, also is an artist in jail, right? So finding opportunities to express their artistic kind of bent has been really spectacular in my opinion. I remember one year to celebrate Islamic History Month, some prisoners at Bath Institution did a pamphlet for Islamic history, but wider across the prison there was a mural that was done. A Muslim kind of led all the artists and pulled them together. And some of the most spectacular work, they had people that were great with architectural drawings, people that were great with design, people that were great with patterns, people that were great with portraiture, coming together to create this splendid mural at Bath Institution.
Easy.
So this is an artist that was an artist outside. He's in jail now, but he's still an artist, right? So the lives of people incarcerated continue, right?
Right.
I wanted to note that although, we think out of sight, out of mind, the reality is that the majority of prisoners that are in prison in Canada, federal system, eventually will return to their community.
That's right.
Right? So when people get sentenced to a federal sentence, they know when they will leave, the earliest date that they can leave and the latest date that they can leave. So from day one, they're preparing to leave the system. And all of the help that our communities can do to get that in place will help them to return to the community to become law-abiding citizens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We all need to be involved, and we all need to care about this because this is a problem for all our own law, right?
Yes.
I know, like in the U.S., and I'm sure it's happened in Canada too in the past, where prisoners have had to fight for their rights to pray, to get a prayer mat, to have a Quran, to even be able to fast because, they might not get dinner at a right time, and then they get it taken away.
Yes.
And so it's a problem for us all to address and care about and help them get these materials that they need and be able to practice. Because like you said, they're going to eventually come out and Islam is going to help them, they're trying to better themselves, right?
Yes.
So how can we encourage people and how can they get information to volunteer and help?
So I think there are, like I said earlier, there are different ways of engaging the volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
There is a citizens advisory committee that advises prisons, right?
Mm-hmm.
That person doesn't necessarily have to do anything with a prisoner, right? Like, some people might not want to do that, and that's fine, right? But a citizenship advisory committee helps to advise the criminal justice system on how humane treatment may happen for Muslims, might happen for Christians, might happen for Jews, might happen for anyone within the society. Having that in place, or connecting with a citizen advisory committee, volunteering, finding out who's there are many Muslim chaplains across the country, finding out who's doing that work and how can they help. Can my community sponsor Eid dinner at the prison, at the federal prison in wherever? Those are the kind of things. And it's like I said, it's the federal prisons are across the country, so it's not limited to Toronto or Ontario, but all across the country there are opportunities for Muslims to participate in the life and the life-giving activities that prisons have, for sure.
Let's talk about the white elephant in the room, Imam Abdur Rashid Taylor. A significant number of prisoners tragically suffer from mental illness.
Yeah.
And with that frame in mind, bringing it back to this other tragic perspective within our community is this idea is, why isn't there an engagement by our community, because with caring about these individuals? Because we have this perspective, unfortunately, a lot of us in the community, if you did the crime, you got to do the time.
Yeah.
Right? So I want the audience to know about, because there's a lot of prisoners that suffer from mental illness, especially our community, because a lot of them come from war-torn countries. And that's important. So I thought maybe you could briefly, give us some wisdom there.
It's true, eh?
Sorry, it was the white elephant. It's the white elephant question in the room.
The white elephant is why some business speak.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But I want to say, just like all Canadians have concerns with mental wellness and mental health, that doesn't stop at a prison wall.
Absolutely.
Right? Either, like you said, like marginalization, racialization, being apart from community, not having family supports, not knowing outcome of cases, and all those things negatively or significantly impact one's mental well-being, right? There are supports within the prison system. There's psychologists available, but sometimes the line is long, just like psychologists in the community, right? Opportunities for people to work together, to have gainful employment, to have gainful educational activities, to have social time. All of those things that, contribute towards a positive mindset or positive mental health. They are present, and men and women find opportunities to get that within the system. But like so many situations, like everywhere else in our country, a lot of things that's lacking, right? Opportunities are lacking.
Yeah, the accessibility.
And certainly community support can be one of that. Someone in the community cares about me. Somewhat, we don't have letter writing campaigns in Canada.
Yeah.
But but that does not stop someone from showing some interest in what's going on in Canadian prisons.
Just because someone's serving time doesn't mean that they don't need emotional well-being. Doesn't mean that they don't need the support anymore, right? It's like, something's going on with your life. It's up to you, right? That's not in our deen. It's not in our religion. At the end of the day, we know that, what is good for you should be good for your brother. What you love for yourself, you should love for your brother. And we're also only as strong as our weakest link,
for sure,
right?
For sure.
And tomorrow, if you're a fallen person and you need the support and I don't support you, I'm going to need help one day, right? So you have to light everyone's lantern, because the day that yours goes off, everyone else is still well lit and we're okay in the village, That's how I see it.
Absolutely. And this is why I think there's so much for us to learn from our Jewish and Christian cousins.
Ooh.
Like our Jewish and Christian cousins, they have it. They have it right, in my opinion. And I, before we end it off, Imam Abdur Rashid, before I give it back to you're working on a project that you want us to,
I would love to hear about that.
Yeah, we want to hear this project. We would love to hear it, because you're making a difference.
I want to hear that.
That particular project is thermoses for hot water and for suhoor, right?
Okay.
That I mentioned. We have a national project that we're just getting pushed, because Ramadan is less than 100 days away.
Yeah.
And for many people in our jails, in our federal prisons, they don't have access to hot water. Now, men living in their own home have access to do this, but there are men that might be on our age with some cells that might not have this.
Yeah.
So we have a program that we're raising funds for
the thermoses.
Purchase thermoses, so that Muslims would have hot water for suhoor.
That's amazing.
As simple as that. Someone can make a huge difference in someone's fasting for the entire month of Ramadan.
love
That
that.
prisoner
Yours.
might make dua for one person. Such a small deed can be something that Allah is pleased with. Sometimes we think that we have to build huge masjids and we have to build all these infrastructures to be, noticed by Allah. But it's the small deeds, the consistent deeds that matter. So I'm hoping may Allah put so much barakah in that. And inshallah, we will all, support as much as we can as well. So you have
sure.
our support.
I appreciate that.
And it's on camera, so we have to actually
That's
honor
right.
it, everybody. Inshallah.
You got us.
Yeah, and check me out, right? M. Rashid Taylor was on Twitter,
Nice. Okay, there you go.
yeah,
I
so
personally know he does some
Hit that
amazing work.
follow button,
mashallah.
right?
Mashallah.
Well, thank you so much, brother, for sharing all that with us. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
May
and
Allah
hopefully we'll
bless
talk
you.
to you again soon.
I mean, may Allah
Yes.
bless you, bless your work, and increase your audience.
Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair. Well, there you go, everyone. Abdur Rashid, mashallah, he's shared so much with us. And you've learned what a chaplain who has so much experience can share with you, and that everyone has a spot at the table when it comes to this work. So make sure that you follow him on Twitter. Make sure that you follow the work. And thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Muslimi Meets. Assalamu alaikum.